Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today basically I'm taking you guys out and getting shots of the sunrise while also testing out the low light settings on the Sony A7S III. As you guys can see, I got the Hone Bridge behind me. We're shooting over Lake Michigan here, or on Lake Michigan. I got a nice lighthouse here in the foreground, and so for this test I'm not going through every single ISO setting. As you guys will see, we got the sunrise coming up, so our lighting conditions are going to change. So this test is by no means scientific, but I think, I'm going to pick some ISO settings that show some of the grain, some settings that'll avoid it, and also kind of showing you guys a beautiful sunrise. I don't know why I picked the windiest day for this. So all these tests were shot on the Sony 24-105 f4 lens. Picture profile was turned off. Typically, I've been shooting everything in log, but I didn't do that this time around. We're underexposed, about 2 stops, but you can also get some light in the sensor off in the distance there where the sunrise is coming up. So I'm going to double the ISO and go to 1600 now. So ISO 1600, we're starting to get some more detail here in the foreground. I can't tell from the screen, but you don't see too much grain up until this point. So on this next ISO test, gonna double this, so we're gonna go to 3200. So here, as you can see, we're starting to reach optimal exposure. That sunrise is looking beautiful, but kind of moving past ISO 4000, I'm gonna start adjusting my f-stop. I'm at f4 now. I'm just gonna adjust that so that we can get our exposure right, and then so I can show you guys, the higher ISO settings and if there's any grain. So here we're at ISO 6400. We're slightly overexposed, but there are no details kind of blown out in the background or off in the distance. So now we're going to move up ISO 12800. So here ISO 12800, change the f-stop to 5.6 just to kind of match our exposure. Everything's looking good. From my tests that I've done, and really start to see some grain around like ISO 4000 and up, but then it starts to disappear around ISO 12800 and 1600 especially. So if you're shooting high ISO 12800 and 1600, they seem to have the least amount of grain from my experience. So right now we're going to switch over to ISO 1600, ISO 16000, I'm sorry. I know I said 1600 clip previous, but we're at ISO 16000. The grain is not too bad, so now I'm really going to start to crank it up. So I'm going to crank it up now and go over ISO 20000 and really start to try to look for that grain. So here we're at ISO 25600. I'm not going to change my f-stop anymore beyond this point. I'm just going to be adjusting my neutral density filter just to maintain consistent settings. Let's switch over. So now we're at ISO 40000. We are starting to get some more sunlight, but the only time I shot at this ISO was really like shooting indoors on a car. But this is still looking pretty nice, so let's move up. So here we're at ISO 64000. And let's switch over. This is ISO 160000. I can start to see some noise on the foreground, especially in this grass area, just from looking at the back of the screen here. So let's switch this over and go over 200,000. So here we're at 256,000. You can see the grain here. So I think just really from this point on, I would say it's not unusable, but this is obviously for like last case scenarios. If you're shooting, on location a documentary or something, this is really going to start to look pretty rough. So here we have ISO 320,000. Yeah, you just see some kind of grain all over the place. But yeah, this is kind of looking rough. But obviously this is not a scientific test by any means. This is more so a scene that I would be shooting personally, getting some B-roll of like a sunrise, sunset. I know I skipped some ISO settings, but I really hit the key ones. Some ISO settings that I've kind of used from past shoots, having the camera for a couple months now. But let's switch over to over 400,000. And this is the highest you go, 409,600. At this point, we have some sunlight coming up. It's kind of helping the sensor, but even so, you can still see a bunch of grain. Over on that lighthouse, on the grass here, the highlights don't seem too bad. Again, I'm only judging from the back of the screen here. You know, I really picked some ISO settings from, you know, past experience, having had the camera for a couple months, where I found some grain, some ISO settings where I kind of feel like I would skip up and jump to. Obviously, when you're on a shoot and you know you're picking your settings, you're not going to scroll through each individual ISO setting. You're going to kind of double up. Say like you're at ISO 4000, you're going to double up to ISO 8000, and kind of those sort of increments to really nail your exposure right away, kind of right off the cuff, and then start shooting like right away. But so you guys can see the sunrise behind me. Sun's kind of up by now. So what did you guys think of the test? Let me know down in the comments, but I think we saw some good results. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm excited to show you guys some new content that I have coming out. I booked another music video, so we're kind of in the pre-production stage, kind of planning out, you know, locations, story, wardrobe, things like that. So I'm excited for you guys to see that. If you guys haven't seen it, I dropped a vlog when I went to Cancun, so I'll probably, you know, place that link straight up here in the corner. And you know, I've been working on a cool project too for the Bucks. Not going to tell you guys too much details beyond that. So I guess to close this video out, I'll probably, I'll just do a little montage of like some water scenes that, you know, I've shot, and again show off some cool slow motion settings on the camera. So thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Jose. I've been your One Orbit captain, and enjoy this little montage. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit that bell, and we got some cool content coming for you guys. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Peace.